Good Saturday afternoon, everybody. Meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center right now, breaking in because the college football game in Gainesville here in Alachua County in our coverage area between Texas A&M and Florida has been suspended due to lightning in the area. So, scenario here where it's just suspended the game after the end of the first quarter because things are just too dangerous to continue right now. And lightning within 8 miles, whenever that lightning gets that close, that definitely can be an issue in terms of that being potentially life-threatening because of that electrical energy. When you hear that thunder rumble, the general rule is that you're close enough to be struck by lightning. So that game there at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium in Gainesville, Florida, has been suspended due to lightning in the area. So that suspension happened just around 4:30 or so. So you have to wait 30 minutes at least in the typical sense here to potentially maybe resume action there. That's if you don't have another strike within 8 miles or so. So gotta be cognizant of that. I know nearly 90,000 is what the capacity is for Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. So I know it's a scenario there where, some folks that look like we're standing in their seats for now because the worst maybe not right there. And it's not a guarantee they're going to end up getting, a heavy downpour there in terms of it right over the stadium. But we'll go ahead and kind of show you here what we're talking about right now with the overall situation. So there's Gainesville, and then there's the stadium right there. That's Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. You see all the athletic complexes there. I know some of this map might be a little behind. I know baseball's kind of moved around there over the years. But okay, so you kind of saw where that was. I'll put a marker here and I'll zoom back out. And you will be able to see that the movement's kind of been, right there close by, but it's not, maybe something that is, a squall line or something like that headed right in where it's just a guarantee you're going to have adverse conditions there right at the site. But you have the lightning with 8 miles, and in that situation, that means that lightning is close enough, to strike, that far away from the apparent thunderstorm. I mean, you could have problems there with just the electrical energy. Whenever that accident is that close, you can have a rogue strike there that far away still. So that's why 8 miles is one of those things taken into account here because of that potential. So again, a situation in Gainesville with that college football game between Texas A&M, who's 1-1 on the season, and Florida, who's 1-1 on that season here so far. It's in a delay right now. Florida down 10-0 after the end of the first quarter. I know the Gators having struggles this year. I know FSU not lucky on the field. They were lucky to get the game in because there has been some accident around. But we'll keep an eye on this down toward Gainesville. I want to give you some updates on some other things while we're breaking in right now. So we have other accident around here with the convection on the Doppler and the lightning in some spots. And then we got to Tallahassee. I know that game ended there with FSU falling to 0-3 for really about the third time in 50 years there or so, and it's just not good on the field, but they did get the game in despite the maxing around. They got lucky in terms of the weather conditions at least, so that's something. I mean, quite honestly, might have not been, wanting to, get it all in there before maybe getting some type of delay. Because maybe that could have helped the team adjust, but that's not what ended up happening. I know we also have a situation, not in our area, we wouldn't break in for ordinarily, just on its own. But I mean, we have some storms down there in like Martin and St. Lucie County, right? But then you get down here, we have a delay for the Miami home game against Ball State there in Miami Gardens. There's lightning in that area. That game keeps being pushed back there. So just some issues with the lightning there within 8 miles of that one. That game being delayed between the Ball State Cardinals and Miami Hurricanes because of electrical energy down there. So just some inclement weather impacting portions of the state here on this Saturday. So again, that's kind of a storyline there with lightning too close toward that stadium. But as we go back to the north now, let's go ahead and zoom back in toward Gainesville here. I know we watch here on the Doppler. You can see some of this heavier downpour activity, and maybe some of this there just south of Arredondo may try to work its way closer to the stadium. There's not necessarily lightning with that though, so we'll see if that lightning can go get outside of the 8-mile radius or so. It could be a situation where they end up they're able to go ahead and resume, but they're in the middle of a downpour. So we'll see. Sometimes you can factor in just the probability of more lightning developing too, and maybe just keep the delay a little bit longer. So again, let's go ahead and just continue to watch this here. I'll see if there's any new information from the site, because sometimes they see things just a little bit differently sometimes in terms of how they want to kind of proceed here with the different rules and regulations with weather delays. So I know game being showcased on ABC this afternoon. In that delay, they're having to go to bonus coverage right now to fill the time slot. I know they had a game that ran way long there earlier up in Columbia, South Carolina, and now the game in Gainesville, Florida, in our viewing area, this one county south of where we're at in Bradford County, in a delay. So having to go to some different acts in Tulane and Oklahoma right now is what they're showing. But I know FSU, of course, and my alma mater. My team there falling 0-3, but well, at least weather wasn't a factor in terms of delaying it. I mean, how you may have two sides to that coin, though, and that maybe it might have helped get things organized, but there has been a good bit of time to get organized, and just a lot of issues, including the quarterback play for Florida State and Florida to some degree, for that matter, though. They're trying to use, in some ways, a two-quarterback system here today, it seems. But again, watching things down toward Gainesville with this developing situation, with that electrical energy around that lightning delay. So that's obviously cause for concern down there. And we're just going to go ahead and continue here to watch, continue to track here, obviously, what's going on. Let me go ahead and just keep on looking here and more information. Again, as that delay does continue there in Gainesville. I know, honestly, was seeing some indications a little before that delay, some concern, but then things really became more apparent there, right, around that delay point. I mean, you could even see the sky there too, but looking at the telecast, as they go ahead and kind of go over some more information. I know they're switching to some different games there during that delay over on ABC and the like, but again, just continuing to give you the latest here this afternoon with this breaking weather. So again, watching the electrical energy around. You don't see a whole bunch really that close at this point. I know we had some kind of just sneak in there. I know there was an announcement in the stadium, according to West 2 sport director over on Twitter/X, saying that there was lightning between that, just over 8 to 15-mile radius, and then right after the announcement, it was within 8. So that meant instead of talking about maybe needing a delay soon, they had to go into that delay setup there. So again, watching things there toward Gainesville. No severe weather in terms of warnings. Generally that's what we break in for. But we've done weather delay coverage here in the past. Sometimes I'll just stream the radar or something like that. But thought we'd just go ahead and kind of talk about it. No actual thunderstorm warning, severe thunderstorm warning, or flash flood warning, or tornado warning right now. That's a little bit unusual on how we're doing this, but I know we did have a flash flood warning this morning as we were looking toward parts there of the region there up and towards South Georgia. So That's kind of interesting to touch on when we're looking at things like that. So, but yeah, no actual severe warning in play right now. So that's the good news. You kind of see here as we're looking. There's the stadium. There's the radar, and it looks like they're now saying on the telecast, I believe 5:17 is when they're looking to try to resume action. Right now, things stay in the better set of circumstances there. So that'd be, if that were to be the storyline, a better case scenario and a shorter delay. But again, just continuing to watch that there toward Gainesville and Alachua County this afternoon. Again, it's not a severe warning. We don't have, officially severe conditions of delay just because of the electrical energy there that is in the storyline with the lightning, because lightning can be deadly. So you got to take that seriously, obviously, as we're looking at things there down toward Alachua County. So again, just continuing to give you the latest there with that. As we look, I know we did have some pretty strong wind around Cairo earlier. Didn't quite need to see a thunderstorm warning there. That was up in Georgia. But you can see some heavy downpours not too far away from the stadium where that red dot is. But I know, just continuing to give you the latest here in terms of, let's say, just our coverage map. Of course, we're in Bradford County, and this game is in Alachua County there, where that delay is in progress. So again, the telecast there, 5:17 is what they're saying, according to the ABC broadcast, is when the game may resume. So hopefully for those Gator and Aggie fans out there that is the case. But again, just continuing to watch here. Continuing to track the situation. I know, just like FSU right now, there's a lot of dissension within the Gator fan base, because a lot of problems there for both teams. A lot of problems for both teams there. I mean, FSU, that unconquered season last year, and just even though they did everything they could to earn that playoff spot, the committee just said that they weren't going to let them have it. So, they have a lot of adversity in that way, and a lot of different players for that matter, other than the great kicker that FSU has there, Ryan Fitzgerald. But the Florida just hadn't been good several years. I mean, it's a different situation down there. I mean, at least FSU had maybe, one of the, better college football teams so far anywhere in the country this decade last year. Just weren't allowed to get into that college football playoff. But looking here toward Gainesville, you can see here what's going on. Again, looking there, Ben Hill Griffin Stadium's where that red dot is, and that's where they have their delay right now. Last time they were good, I guess, would have been the COVID year, 2020. They actually, I mean, they were right there. If they would have won that SEC title game, there would have been a case. Maybe, I don't know if they would have quite made it, but there would have at least been a case to make it to the college football playoff. And then, some tough losses the next year, and the decision was made to fire the head coach there in Gainesville. Really surprising after several pretty good years, not quite as good in 2021, and then the recruiting was a concern. But I mean, when you don't win games, your recruiting generally not going to be that good either. But it seemed like Dan Mullen was doing a pretty good job down there, to be quite honest. But anyhow, we're going ahead and looking here at the Doppler radar. You can see the heavier downpour activity there right now. It's sitting there around, you can see South Main Street, State Road 331, getting over to Reward US 441. So that's some heavier downpour action. It's not out of the question with it being that heavy. Now we could get a lightning strike or two out of that. A lightning strike or two out of that, and then that could extend that delay. I know this year quarterbacks for Florida, Graham Mertz and DJ Lagway trying to get in the action. the true freshman, I believe, there for him. See what ends up happening with that. I know Graham Mertz has been in college football a while. He's done decent, but DJ Lagway, there's the thought from Gator fans at least that maybe he can provide more energy for the team. We'll kind of see how that goes in that regard. But I know, again, the Gators really haven't been relevant in college football since 2020 when Kyle Trask was in the Heisman race. And, I mean, they were doing really good that year. They had, you know, a great season on their hands. For the most part, almost beat Alabama in the SEC title game. Keep in mind, that's an Alabama team that destroyed Ohio State for the national championship there down, I believe it was in Miami Gardens, a few weeks later. So, it's just kind of interesting to think about that. But again, just continuing to watch and we'll see how things go there for the Gators with, they have their head coach, Billy Napier. He's been under some fire here lately in terms of just, being in a spot where a lot of Gator fans, they're disappointed in his performance the first few years there, 2022, 2023, and not, getting about 5-6 wins, and now 2024, they had that terrible loss against Miami, just really not competitive, and now they're already down 10-0 here today. I mean, there's a thought by some that, in theory, it's not out of the question, depending on how this game ends up going, and this could be the last game for head coach Billy Napier there in Gainesville. So, as we go ahead and keep watching things here, though, just continuing to look at the Doppler technology. I know, looking there and watching, I know you go back to 2020 and Florida had a really good year that year under head coach Dan Mullen. I mean, they, had so many great games. They did lose to Texas A&M, ironically, but I mean, they beat Georgia by 16 points. They, just did well. And then I know the LSU game really hurt them, though. It was a foggy night there down in Gainesville on that December 12th, 2020, and if they would have won that game, they would have won the SEC title game. They would have been in the playoff. I think it's pretty clear. But both games didn't quite work out for them, and now they're, in a spot where their record's better than FSU's, but right now they're, kind of not as big of a deal in the national picture here in terms of college football. But again, just continuing to track things here on the Doppler. You can see there's not lightning showing up necessarily in this shot, so that's good. But we'll just continue to look. So I haven't seen any, I'm double checking if there are any official updates here on the Gator game besides that time of 5:17 being indicated on the telecast there. And not seeing anything right off, but I'll keep looking. Just a one-man band here. Kind of was just looking at that there, reading that from the caption on the telecast. So we'll see if that ends up holding there or not. But again, a delay in Gainesville. Due to the nasty weather there. And then there's also a delay down in South Florida with the Miami Hurricanes. They're doing really good so far, it would seem, based on their winning games with their higher ranking, about number 10 or so in the country, I believe. Not depending on what poll you look at here. Let me see. It may be number 10 as we just continue to look at things. Again, the AP has them at number 10. Again, the game there was supposed to start at 3:30, but it's 5 o'clock and it hadn't started yet. So they had a kickoff scheduled at 1:45, but they've been delayed again. They'll provide a new kickoff as soon as they have it there. So you see the Doppler there around Gainesville, and you didn't really see lightning right too close on that view, at least. You see some over to the east, but I know we're watching the 8-mile radius very carefully. So they're saying 517 on their telecast deal on ABC, but let me go ahead and see if we can switch to a different radar. So I'm going to go ahead and go down to the Miami radar right now. We'll look at the delay down there. So you have Miami, right? And then there's Miami Gardens, and you have lightning right in that vicinity where that game between Ball State and Miami is supposed to kick off. Miami, Mario Cristobal's squad there, and unfortunately they're having some issues. I know it's not in our viewing area. We wouldn't be on if we didn't already have the delay, but you see Hard Rock Stadium right there, or close to where that red dot is, and you can see some of this thunderstorm activity around Opa-locka there, as well as Golden Glades there in general in South Florida. So that's causing some issues there with that lightning, just not rescinding here per se, and leaving that area quick enough. You see how they were right there at the stadium earlier. That goes back to 445. And that's really concerning when you see the lightning right there at the stadium. I hope everybody took shelter there. Have really kind of just been keeping more of an eye on the telecast here toward Gainesville. That's the reason we broke in, since it's in our area. And we have unlike Miami, which you're not going to have a whole bunch of local viewers necessarily at that game against Ball State. You're going to have a lot of local folks at, the game both in Tallahassee. If there would have been a delay there, we would have broke in. There was a delay there. That game's over. FSU fell 0-3 with the loss to Memphis. But then in Gainesville, there is a delay, and that's why we're on the air right now. I mean, the two, major college football teams within the 62 counties there. So that's kind of the storyline. As we go back to the Jacksonville radar, you see some flood reports in Duval County. That's been a story here lately. I mean, well, actually, technically just in the Clay, but Clay, Duval, and Nassau counties, a lot of flooding concern have been a big story around Fernandina Beach lately. But yeah, these flood reports here, Clay County, Minor Street flooding reported along Kevin Drive in the Orange Park area, flooding into adjacent yards, but no threatened property or structures. And then around Gano Avenue, just east of Bear Boulevard, to the west of Dauphin Street, it would look like there. That's impassable due to some flooding. So that rain, it's just been taking its toll here. The storm total didn't go back for Fernandina, but they have had a lot of rain lately. You see quite a bit here. That storm total for northern Clay today, 3-4 inches. It's just kind of is variable at times. So stuff kind of drifts around, and we watch the lightning here and the like, and you see toward Gainesville, the heavy rain there, and you see some of that wind enhancement on velocity. So, in fact, there's not a significant weather advisory for where we have a lot of lightning, unlike down to where Gainesville, we're not seeing as much right now. You can see off east and north of Tallahassee, we have an advisory because we're getting some, honestly, winds. They look pretty strong there. I mean, I've been switching radars, but that looks like that may be getting closer to a warning than we would like here now around the Miccosukee area. So I'll have to watch that here. It's not quite to that level yet. I mean, when you look at the winds, those aren't severe there as I kind of look. But when you add these together, that's 25, and that's about 20. That gets you to about 45 miles an hour. So once you get about 58, then that's when a warning will be issued. So, it's kind of similar to the K-Road situation, just maybe under what would be required for a severe thunderstorm warning right now is what looks to be the right line of thinking. But again, continuing to watch that. I know we had those tornado warnings Thursday there in Franklin County, and that vicinity we were on for a while with all that accident that was in association with Francine, and that was on that Wednesday where that made landfall. And we can go to the bigger picture real quick. I mean, we have this pattern now. I mean, it's kind of been stirred up with Francine, but at this point, since we haven't necessarily had as much organization, I don't want to just call these Francine storms here at this point. I mean, it's a little bit different than what we had the other day, but this pattern still kind of stirred up per se. So I mean, they don't even have Francine categorized anymore at the Hurricane Center. You know, I mean, as I look here, they were kind of wrapping that up there. Looks like last night, I believe, is when the last update came out on post-tropical cyclone Francine. So, again, now you're not going to really want to just start categorizing things, but again, it was more of a story earlier on. I know weather held out for a lot of those high school games yesterday, including that big win Bradford had there here at home against Mandarin Jacksonville. I mean, Mandarin Jacksonville, a team, that many folks, have been really focused on. I mean, they were, a team in a very high classification that made it their state title game as well. And Bradford beat them here in Stark, won that game, had the victory in that. So that was impressive. But let's go back down to the Lightning here in Gainesville. I do see a strike. Let's see how close that one is. I can use our measuring tool here. So you have the stadium over here, Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. And then you have this strike, and that's 9 miles. So, depending on how they want to do this here, that may be just outside the radius, but, you can make the argument both ways on that. Quite honestly, I know ESPN, I believe, has a 10-mile rule where they don't generally have their cameras operating when lightning's within 10 miles, but you just kind of, sometimes folks look at different things. It seemed like, quite honestly, they were pushing a little bit there in Gainesville earlier on before they had to delay there around 4:30 or so. Again, just continuing to watch things, continuing to monitor. I know UF Weather Stem is showing about 28 minutes ago that there was a lightning strike 5.26 miles away. So I was seeing a strike on that though, a good bit before the delay, only a couple miles away from the stadium. So that's why I kind of hesitate. Our software wasn't showing it though, but that was showing it. So it's kind of a give and take sometimes here. Interesting that was showing up there, several minutes before that delay. But it wasn't showing up on my software, so I'm not sure if that was something that was being maybe just discounted, but because you would think they'd have heard the thunder if there was a lightning strike just 2 miles away. So again, just continuing to watch here the situation. Just trying to figure out exactly what's going on here. All that inclement weather down there in Alachua County. So again, just trying to get the latest updates on what's going on with this delay. I know we'll go ahead and swing back on over toward that storm there in the Big Bend that's kind of strong around Miccosukee. You can see some of that wind there and lightning. That's right along, it looks like County Road 59. Some more there, as you get toward US 19. Honestly, around I-10 is an issue because some folks be headed home from that game now, FSU Memphis game, and they're getting caught in some downpour, not severe, but a little nasty. By the way, they are saying 5:17 on that broadcast there about the resumption, it would seem, at this point. So that's kind of the storyline right now. So again, it looked like they had a coach for A&M being interviewed by a reporter. So that might be a good sign. I do see, by the way, a flood advisory now toward Jefferson and Leondo 7. But again, the focus has been Gainesville with this delay around, the Gainesville area. It looks like, though, quite honestly, some of that heavier rain might be trying to work its way closer now toward the stadium. So, and if you get a rogue strike out of that, then that's definitely a cause for concern. So it's not a given that 5:17 will be the time where this resumes here. If we get another strike, then that would be a 30 more minute delay. Again, just continuing to watch. You see all the heavy rain on I-75. I'm scrubbing back and forth if you're wondering what I'm doing. And I'll go ahead and put this into motion. And you can kind of see here how earlier the other accident was kind of going a little bit further over, but now that accident at Arredondo looks to be kind of headed more, due north at this point. So then that's going to be an issue with heavy rain at the stadium. Granted, if you don't have the lighting, you can play through it. It's in baseball. You can play through it here with the heavy downpour activity in theory, but you got to be a little careful because you can get a rogue strike out of something that's just convective here this time of year. So something to continue to watch. Again, we have to watch, of course, for the cloud to ground strikes. That's where you have the cause for concern. Again, let's go down to South Florida. Again, they have that delay around Miami Gardens. And we're going to go ahead and look down there. So you see things look to be kind of getting a little bit further away from there. So maybe they'll get that game going with Ball State. That, would be helpful for the Miami Hurricanes, who look to be the class of the ACC this year so far. Them and maybe Clemson, could be right up there in the running for the conference title at the end of the year. We shall see, but I know just continuing to track things. There's always a chance Miami slips up some, but with the expanded playoff, that could give them a little leeway. We shall see. That game against Ball State was scheduled for the ACC network for Miami. So again, just kind of continuing to watch things here, continuing to track them. We'll go back to the north. Again, quite honestly, the heavy downpour about to go over the stadium. So let's just say there's not another delay, and they go ahead and resume the accident, what I'm going to do here by the time that game resumes is I'll just go ahead and leave the radar running. And if we don't have another delay, once that shower accident, downpour accident, it's the downpour. You need to have your ponchos out there at the stadium. If you're watching me right now during the delay, have those ponchos out. This is a downpour headed right toward Ben Hill Griffin Stadium with a game about to resume. It's a situation where if there's not another delay, we'll just leave the radar up until that concludes, that downpour there. But if there's another delay, we'll cut back in. I'll turn the mic back on in that situation. So that's kind of how I'm looking at things from that regard right now here at 5:11. Again, 5:17 is when play is scheduled to resume, according to the ABC broadcast, the SEC on ABC broadcast there from ESPN and their college football package. So again, just continuing to track here. I know it's always interesting this time of year when, it's the greater probabilities, that there is this time of year for lightning and storms to interfere with college football. So that's not what you want to see. But again, that's what we're dealing with right now. But I know sometimes this can affect the crowd here. Lightning delay. And with the team down 10-0, they're still saying 5:17 scheduled to resume there. Looked like they were showing some shots from above in Gainesville, and so about 4.5 minutes it's scheduled to resume. But I'm looking at it, it looks really dark there, the sky, and you can see why. We're about to actually have the rain come in, a heavy downpour, a gully washer here. It's becoming clear now. That's going to head right toward the stadium. But the electrical energy isn't shown up necessarily within 8 miles. So that's why they're, at this point, allowed to resume. So again, that's kind of a storyline there. I'm going to check the UF Weather Stem site to see if it's showing any lightning, here in the last few minutes in that closer radius. It's saying 12 minutes ago there's a lightning strike 6.75 miles off toward the east. So, and just depending on how you're looking at the technology and what technology you're looking at, that's a little bit tricky there because within that radius like that, that would maybe require another delay. But Right now, that doesn't seem to be where they're going with it. My technology is not showing that lightning here necessarily popping up, so it's a give and take situation. I mean, you know, but it is a heavy downpour headed toward the stadium, and that honestly, we got to be careful with this because when you have convection that strong this time of year, you can get a lightning strike, and that could really be dangerous. That could be life threatening. So this is tricky. It's one thing about having something where folks can get inside pretty quick, but this could strengthen where we have a few lightning strikes pretty quick here, and folks might not be able to get to shelter. But technically, that wouldn't be the protocol. So again, it's a tricky situation from that emergency management perspective here. As they look like they're about to resume the game. The second quarter is about to begin after a very long, you could say, break. I guess with the way the ads are now, you could make a point. Maybe it was like a 45-minute commercial break, but that's kind of how we're looking at things there toward that game in Gainesville. As I know we're on the edge of the velocity there. Wish that would show better. Look like there might be a little wind energy here too, quite honestly. I think there is. You may stick with us here and just kind of, I know obviously we can't see the game here. We're not allowed to show the broadcast, but you might want to just keep me up side by side here. Maybe have me on your tablet and the broadcast on your TV, or vice versa even. You can watch this, I know, on your Roku device on YouTube and the like, or mirror it from another, source, then that'd be harder to watch the tablet with the game, but you kind of get the idea. I'm kind of curious. It may get pretty rough there for a few minutes in Gainesville, so it may just be better for me to stay with you and walk you through it, despite them about to resume the action. I mean, technically, this is the protocol that you would resume because there's not the lightning, the weather sim site says it, but I mean, my technology is not showing the lightning within 8 miles, but this is a gully washer headed right there toward the stadium. I mean, there's the stadium right there, folks. And guess where this is headed? This is at least moderate rain. I mean, we'll see if they get into the heavy rain, but some of the heavy rain did break just a little bit there. But this is poncho weather for sure. And, if it's like FSU, they don't let you take umbrellas in. And it's just an ironic situation here that rain's coming in now that the delay is pretty much lifted. Wouldn't be like this in baseball, but it's about the lightning here in football. So again, poncho, conditions here. The light rain, I don't really see it on the telecast, but it should be starting to begin there now. I know we're a little ways away on the radar of it. I back it up, I haven't had much rain during the whole delay. I mean, that goes back to 4:08, and then we'll go to 4:30. That's when the delay started pretty much, and it's just ground cluttered and maybe some sprinkles in there, and now the rain's about to start. So it's kind of a tricky situation, not exactly what you want to be dealing with. So. And I mean, honestly, this could have a gust to about 30 miles an hour in it as well. So again, a tricky situation with 90,000 folks, give or take, outside there in Gainesville. I mean, at this point, it may be a little less because some folks not getting back to their seats or not wanting to get back to their seats there. And with it, it's just a 10-0 game, but sometimes folks just kind of, maybe want to call it an evening already. With it just, the rain threat being around, and like maybe afraid they won't make it home before dark, depending on where they live. But again, just continuing to watch here. I mean, the fans look energized. It doesn't really look like, despite the Raiders showing the light rain, they were really getting the rain yet. But you'll definitely get the moderate rain to verify there. They are resuming action now in ABC in that contest. So I'm just going to stick with it a little longer just to see what kind of happens because, with this moderate rain activity coming on in here, and even some heavier downpours, at least, going to have issues potentially. Going to have issues, gully washer type conditions right around the interstate right now. I mean, let me see if I can pull up some traffic cameras there because that could help tell the story. It'd probably be a little heavier over there based on what I'm seeing on the Doppler technology, but it's very clear that it's a heavy downpour there right now on I-75 and the like. So that's definitely worth noting as we're looking at things, as we're tracking them. Again, they have resumed the game, but again, getting about the heaviest rain they've had here during this contest, by a pretty good margin coming on in. So, again, just continuing to watch, continuing to track. I'm going to try to pull up one of those Florida 501 perspectives and give you an idea of what the heavy rain looks like in the vicinity there. So what we're going to do right now, let's go ahead and go to our traffic source here. And this is what it looks like. I-75 at mile marker 382. The exit to State Road 121. You can definitely see it doesn't really look great out there right now. And, maybe not quite to that degree, but not far off, It's what it could turn into there in Gainesville here. And if the downpour accent starts to kind of pick up within the area of that moisture, then, it could look closer to that. But it does look like it is a little bit wet out there now, just based on the telecast. Looks like maybe there is a little bit of wetness, but again, just continuing to watch, continuing to track there. I'm just trying to give you an idea of what's going on. You see the heavier rain clustering toward I-75 right now. And then you see some of this moderate rain. It should be right around the stadium. I don't, honestly, on the telecast, I do see a little bit of rain, but I'm surprised that it's not showing up, as well on there as it seems to be showing up here on the Doppler. But there is definitely some rain there. Let me go ahead and see. We'll go to another radar view. Sometimes there's a little displacement when you're further away, from the radar site, like we are with it up in Jacksonville there. But you can kind of see there's Gainesville on the other radar perspective, radar scope. Not seeing the lightning, which would be the issue here now. So that's the good news, at least for those folks. Again, just continuing to watch here. Look at some of the lightning information. Again, trying to give you the latest here. Florida had the ball when they got out of the delay. Texas A&M has it now. And they're trying to go up if they can. They're still a ways away, but they're trying to go up 17-0. So that's, those Gator fans out there, that's unfortunate for them, but it looks like it's going to be, as you can tell, against that Miami game, it's going to be a tough season there, for the Gators, it would seem. I know it's a very tough season for FSU. My Seminoles are just having, their work cut out for them. By the way, -7 yards, I believe, is what they're saying Florida has so far in the game. That is not a good stat. 188 for Texas A&M, and they're using the backup quarterback. So, yikes. But as we continue to watch here, we may go ahead and just kind of let things go, and that we'll keep the radar up here, and we'll kind of just, if we need to cut back in, we will, but otherwise I'll just leave it going, because even though there is some rain falling, it seems there, it doesn't seem to be, and it may pick up because there's that radar displacement. Things might be off a little bit in terms of the miles. I just don't see a lot there to maybe, keep talking over it since the game has resumed. Unless stuff really, gets out of hand again there, then, we can play things by ear, but otherwise I'll let the stream run for a little while and then cut it if things end up being a little bit, tamer in terms of not, getting a situation here where we have another delay or something like that. So we'll keep an eye on it. I'm going to wrap it up for now. Let me go ahead, and I think we'll go ahead and I'll put the loop on here. I'll leave the loop running so that you guys can kind of see what's going on. But assuming things don't get out of hand there, and or I'm talking about just really crazy weather on the telecast, or needing an axle or delay where there's not, a broadcast with the game not happening that moment. Of course, if there's a delay, we'll cut back in. If there's some really crazy weather, we may cut back in as well. But the main concern would be for a delay where folks would need to potentially take that protective action. But we'll watch for local warnings as well as, we just pay attention here in the overall setup. But thanks so much for tuning in and trusting me. I'm going to leave the radar running for now. I'm meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center. Let me just see if there's any questions here for anybody. Don't see anything right off here, so looks like maybe some stuff in Spanish, but just don't really see anything here right off that I'm able to answer here right at the moment. So, that's gonna do it for now. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I'll break back in if conditions warrant here in this setup as Texas A&M's trying to go up 17-0. Just trying to get a little closer toward that end zone there down in Alachua County in Gainesville, Florida.